Hey everybody, welcome to Media Ethics and Law. And we are doing it online, asynchronous. So I hope you found us. And this is actually a course I've always enjoyed teaching a long time. I've been teaching it off and on for about the last 12, 13, 14, 15 years. I forget what year it is. Um, and I usually do it right from my humble abode. So this class is a higher level class, obviously. So I like to say that this class is like taking you, the student, from being a reporter to being essentially an editor, where you make your own decisions and you use your own judgments on what has news value, what doesn't, based on ethical and moral principles. So um, anyway, it's a course that's going to require reading. It's going to be a course that has exams. Um, Not a lot of writing involved, if you want to call it that. But there will be like a class participation element, believe it or not, that will require some thinking, some thought-provoking answers, stuff like that, which I'll get into in a bit. Let me just show you the Canvas home. Much of this while I'll be communicating with you. Just so you know, I've been kind of battling a bit with something called TMJ, which is something that affects my jaw. So I didn't actually have this diagnosed until like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I was wondering for a year, like what the hell was going on while I was taping these lectures. So I haven't had any issues with like disrupting my lectures or anything like that yet, but basically it's like pulled muscles in the jaw area. So but I just wanted to kind of let you know ahead of time about that. All right. So anyway, let's actually go to the Canvas site and share the screen here. Okay. And here we go. Here is the home. Now I'm taping this actually like ahead of time. What I do is I actually do these tapes. Obviously, we're asynchronous, so you're not actually supposed to be, or even required, or not even like can't be like here while I'm actually recording these tapes. Obviously, I mean, I'm sure maybe all of you have been through this already. Um, so what I do is I typically tape them like maybe a couple days ahead of time, maybe even longer, that sort of thing. So here we go. So this is the Canvas site, which again you all should have access to. Welcome to Media Ethics and Law. This course is designed to help you determine in advance how to approach your professional work ethically and to help you develop an ethical decision-making process that can be applied to any given situation. It's funny. I have a parentheses in here that any long form, any situation, long form journalism, broadcast news, using journalistic and media based styles. To put it simply, in this course, you will not be a reporter. You'll be an editor or producer or manager who has to consider the ethical standards before making decisions on what to publish and what not to put on the air. Okay. Um, so that's another thing actually you should keep in mind actually is that this course is about all types of media. It's not just about um, the news reporting media. It's not just about like what we see on CNN or that sort of thing. It's also about TV shows. I mean, it's all about you get information, you learn. Media is all about like learning and getting information, basically procuring information. You can get that in all forms of visual and reading, I would say components. Um, and I would say that the I would say that basically what we're trying to do here is basically again give you the tools and the decision making kind of like information to help or skills to basically make the decisions um, on what is going to go out on the air, but at the same time you take in consideration um, that obviously there's a money making element to this, and there's a lot of decisions that are made, um, that are that 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 are all decisions have to be made, and basically because we have a capitalistic society, they are made um, in a way to basically like how do we do this and make a living at the same time, basically. Okay, so that's what we do in this course is we kind of play that we have to kind of walk that delicate balance of between Like, how do we basically do something that is moral and ethical and at the same time make a living? And the funny thing is that probably your first thought is like, well, they're counterintuitive. They run against each other all the time. But what we talk about in this class is how do we actually get them to work together? And the ironic thing about it is that like what is moral and ethical could also be something that could help you sell something. Basically, there will be people who will turn away from things. They will not watch a certain television program. They will not go with a particular news outlet. They will not go with a particular newspaper or whatever, because maybe they don't hold themselves up to high ethical, the high what is appropriate ethical and moral standards. So that is actually a selling point too. Okay. All right. So what I'm doing is I'm just trying to give you a general guide and like what this course is going to be about. Of course, I'm not going to try to teach you everything here in this this first lecture, but all right. So let's actually go back to the shared screen option. Okay. All right. So on this site, actually, you will see that there is actually like assignments that are listed. I actually posted all the reading assignments from the book. There is a book, and I use a book that's been used for a very long time because I think it's actually the best book to use. Other courses, other sections in this school actually use other books. I don't. These you're going to see some of the unpublished stuff here, but you're going to see. I should tell you right ahead of time. There is actually a deadline for reading all these chapters, and I set them basically weekly because they match each course lecture topic. But what you really should know is that you have to read the first 9 chapters by February 27th. Okay. And then we have our midterm is going to be, see, these aren't actually published yet. So you're getting a little bit of a behind the scenes glimpse here. Your midterm exam is actually going to happen the week after you come back from spring break. The week after, you're going to have a whole week to like study up on it and the whole thing. So you won't have to worry about that. Okay. So anyway, you should use this canvas as essentially the guide for like, I mean, you're gonna see like the reading assignments obviously, but what you should really do is you should actually use it for the modules as a guide to provide like what topics essentially we're going to be like exploring each week. Okay. And what I do is actually I kind of cover them a bit in like 2-week increments. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure what happened here in January 23rd or February 6th, but we'll find out. So anyway, I had a little bit of a hiccup there. I had to resume recording because I wasn't really sure why like the second section was missing, but now I actually found out, in case you're wondering why I paused there. All right, so anyway, you'll see like there's actually, this is where we are right now, the course introduction to search for principles. And your first assignment was just due, now we're going to be reworking in Monday increments essentially here, even though that this course appear, this lecture will appear the first time on Tuesday. But we're going to be working on Mondays. These videos will be here on Mondays, and the assignments will be due on Mondays. So your first assignment actually is to read chapter 1. I know I said you could read a 9 by February. You could do that too. That's fine, just as long as you get it done. But if you want to keep along with the course and meet the deadlines, I mean, I'm not going to be testing you on each chapter as each week goes by. I'm going to be doing a midterm exam. But if you want to keep up with what's going on, you read chapter 1 in the book. And this is the book, 6th edition, Ethics and Journalism by Ron Smith. Okay. And then, you basically click on the module and you will see actually what our subject matter will be. And of course, this is our course introduction to search for principles. And I'll be talking more about this actually like with the next discussion based on more specifics about the chapter. I tend to actually discuss it more about after you've read the chapter, hopefully, than before. Okay. Today, we're just going to actually spend much of our time actually just really dealing with the syllabus and that sort of thing. So, okay. So, during our first class, we outlined just expectations for the course, and then, basically then we'll eventually in our first topics for next week, I'll be discussing what is ethical, how does it play a role in journalism and ethics, how do they coexist, which I alluded to before, what is a journalist's role, that sort of thing. Okay. And then I will also have a discussion point, actually, that actually will be due next week, and there's no waiting till February on that one. Go back to the modules, you'll see. Actually, you see again. I'll publish it on the day I publish the lecture. The first discussion point, which I expect everybody to participate in, because this is where the class participation comes in. How would you define ethics? What does it mean? Who determines what's ethical or not? Okay, so all right, so I basically, again, I want everybody to really participate in that. If you don't, that could actually affect your class participation grade. So, and if you go to the modules again, it goes to like each section that corresponds with, the sections in the book. And then again, we have a midterm exam review, which, I include the week of the spring break, but, then I give you actually like some space in between the, returning from the spring break and the actual exam to actually study for the exam. All right. And then I have an extra credit week, which we'll get to. And then we have I call the oral presentations. That's the second half of the course, where you actually put together a video and actually we'll do a presentation and basically essentially dissect a case, particular media case, whether it's a TV program or a newspaper or news site or whatever, basically, and you will actually put together a presentation on what makes it moral or not, ethical or not, that particular example of media. Okay. And I actually have examples that are in the modules that you can read already. There are already like some that these are A's that were put together by each person. Each person does it. When I've done this class in person, I haven't taught it in person in a number of years, actually, it seems like now, but I've actually had people doing it as pairs. But now with this way, it's just better just to have it like with each person do it individually. Okay. So you can actually look at these if you actually click on them, see how they work, see how they're broken down. I will actually give a whole preview on that as we go along. Okay. And I will discuss how that's broken down. Essentially, take everything we learn in the first half of the semester and you apply it to your own creation on and case study on what's moral, what's ethical in media. Okay, so that's how the class essentially works. All right. All right. So let's go to the syllabus, our favorite portion of this class. Media ethics and law. Okay. Now we don't really deal so much with the law end of things, to be honest with you. We deal with it I kind of weave it in a bit, but it's really more about the ethics part of things. Okay. So so just so you know, I mean, that's something that's really, I feel like it should be really discussed in the writing for media classes more, which I also teach. I might even have some of you, I haven't actually checked the list yet, but anyway, so we have, again, if you need any kind of office hours by appointment, just let me know by email. Zoom access info will be sent to you. That's my telephone number right there. You can text me if you have any kind of issues or something like that. Any kind of questions, that's fine too. But best way really to reach me is through this email right here. Okay. Asynchronous, and this is again the text that's required for this class. Okay. So here's the description. Media ethics and law is not a course that teaches you answers. Its objective is to raise questions and to spur you to come up with other questions and to seek responsible answers. Okay. Journalism allows a lot more than hard work and specialized skills. Journalists must learn to recognize and confront the many and frequently changing ethical issues that pervade so much of their work. I mean, it's so much of a big issue when you hear about things like, when they talk about things like fake news. We just had this whole thing where they just tried to elect the speaker, House Speaker, and they went through like 15 rounds of it or something like that, and so much of it is connected to so much of what's been happening in recent years, and a lot of it's been connected to the media because, look, I'm not trying to take a side here or something like that, but our former president has really turn the media, his own issues with the media into a weapon and weaponized against the media. And it's been a big question about how much to actually cover things like the insurrection, how much we should dig into it, how much we should cover the former president, how much we should cover the current president, how much we should do, how much, and I'm really talking about the traditional news side of things here. How much digging should we do in terms of, trying to find the truth in things? I always, in what's being said and whether it should even be published, one of the things you're going to hear me say a lot in this course is that in journalism, and I say this in writing for media too, we always try to seek the most obtainable version of the truth. We can't always be in the room when things happen, when things are said, when things are done. So we try to like get as close to the truth as possible. Okay. So in this class, that's what we try to do is that, you know, we try to basically again balance the whole idea of like trying to make a living in journalism while at the same time like trying to find what's moral and ethical. And we usually what typically is moral and ethical is what's true. Okay. But we can't always find out exactly what's true because again, we can't always be in the room to listen. So we try to get as close as possible. Okay. Um, that's one of the questions. I mean, if somebody lies about something, do you publish it? Okay. If somebody puts out a documentary full of lies, do you carry it? Okay. So again, to put it simply, you're not just a reporter, you're an editor, a producer, a manager. Okay, you have to consider ethical standards before making a decision on what to post or put on the air or publish. Okay. All right, here's our grading policy. There's 2 exams and oral presentation performed through Zoom and class participation in various situations, or whether you come to the same conclusion as the professor, or led but by the effectiveness of your arguments. So that what matters, your grade will not be affected by the, I'm sorry, I didn't say that right, by the course of action you choose in various situations. So what I'm saying is that, I just want you to participate. I don't really care what necessarily your opinion is, but just as long as you can maybe back it up. I always feel like the best way to back up an opinion is basically provide real examples that help support your opinion. Okay, maybe get people who are maybe like have the expertise in like studying media or whatever, or even that could include like a lot of the pundits that are even sometimes like can like maybe drive you crazy because they're all 24/7 channels. But basically you want to like basically back up what you say. Okay. I don't care what your political views are or any of that stuff. Okay. What I just really care about is just, you just try to like state your opinion and you try to back it up. Okay. Your grade is based approximately as follows: 25% on each exam and 30% of your oral presentation. Okay. And then 20% of your individual participation in class, which again, really a lot, the discussion points depend largely on that. Okay. It's not just that, it's also like things like turning in assignments on time, stuff like that. I take all of that in consideration. I also like care if you actually do engage me with like things like questions and stuff like that. So if I don't hear from you or something like that, I wonder, so I do take that into consideration in terms of your class participation. Okay. Um, the oral presentation, you'll be prepared for an actual case for presentation of the class. You will select your case by finding a more current one in the media instead of looking through the text to choose a case in a textbook. So basically, like, I'm not actually big on like, I do talk about dead philosophers and things like that. That's important. Their principles are important. You can apply them to what you do in class. But I also I think it's actually important to actually really kind of focus, not necessarily on like decisions that were made like a long, long time ago, but like really like in your oral presentation, focus on new cases, newish cases, things like that. Like I mentioned, maybe coverage of like the House speakers election, that sort of thing, coverage of the insurrection 2 years ago, stuff like that. Certain programs that are covered. I've had a lot of people write things about certain like programs that are on Netflix or something like that may be ethically questionable. Like there's just one TV show that actually deals a lot with suicide. So stuff like that. Okay. So yeah, you just have to really kind of clear it with me. They probably will begin in April. Okay. I can't imagine starting in March. All right. And then I will discuss them as they come in and they appear. Okay. Um, Exams. Midterm exam will be March 27th, actually. Okay. and that will be 5 questions, okay? And with essay answers that I'll actually, essentially it's a take home, I guess, because we're doing it asynchronously. I can't do it actually in a classroom, so that's the deal. So, and then you'll have to submit it back to me, okay? And then what I do is I actually give you a study guide that actually raises many of the topics and more that may appear on the exam, okay? And you'll get that apparently weeks ahead of time because spring break's right in the middle there, okay? And the final exam will be based on what we learned from the oral presentations. Will be in May. I'll tell you about the date again, and I think it's actually on Canvas, and will be submitted during the last week of classes. Okay. Lectures or YouTube videos of the lecture will be posted in the announcement and assignment portions of the Canvas site each Monday at 9 a.m., except for the first week, because the semester begins on Tuesday, January 17th. Okay. Those readings are required, and lectures will be based on the chapters assigned each week. Okay. As I noted, we are asynchronous, so please stand by for discussion points that will be addressed in every lecture. They were provided on the Canvas site. Your answers to the discussion points will have a deadline each week. And actually, I think if I didn't mention before, let me just say, I don't think I actually mentioned what the discussion point is. The first one, I'm actually going to post something that actually says hello, basically, and I want you to send me all your email addresses, right? I want you to write to me, and I actually have everybody's email address, because that's actually another way I get the lectures to people, is I email them out to you. Okay. So again, how you define ethics? What does it mean? What determines what's ethical or not? And I'm hoping that maybe you're actually starting to read things, and you'll be able to maybe answer that question. It's actually a pretty subjective question, you'll find. Okay. Because really, like, what's ethical is really what's determined by society, to kind of give that answer away a little bit. All right. In order to successfully complete this course, students will need access to a functional internet connection and smartphone, a computer, a laptop with functional components. I mean, I really shouldn't have to tell you that. You got to have email. You got to be able to communicate with me electronically. Okay. That's how I do it. That's how I grade things. That's how I get it back to you. Okay. If you have any kind of issues, there is tech services that are at Rutgers that you can still use even if you're working from home or whatever. Okay. The grading scale, an A grade will be awarded. I mean, I don't exactly have like the perfect like rubric for this class. I mean, it's very subjective, to be honest with you. Your answers on your exam, I mean, if you have a good solid answer that could be backed up, and I will go into the specifics of that. Okay. As we get closer, then that will probably be an A. And actually, I have to admit, I do give out a lot of A's in this class. Okay. But if you can't back it up, then it'll affect your grade. Okay. It's a 5-question essay exam. So that means that there's 20 points in each answer. Okay. So I expect you to kind of provide a substantial, well thought out answer with evidence. Okay. Back with a backup. Okay. If you don't provide that, you're going to get points taken off. Okay. We'll get more into the specifics of that, about how each exam will be handled, or how the midterm will be handled once we get closer. Okay. Religious observances. I mean, obviously, we have a class here that doesn't have attendance or something like that, but sometimes people have to deal with things and they have to be away. So just let me know. And anything comes up, any kind of illnesses or whatever, you just let me know. Okay. Because that could impact things, obviously, even though we're again working remotely. And even like weather and stuff like that could affect things. Who knows? I don't know. Plagiarism, there's obviously a section on plagiarism. I mean, obviously I care about that, especially since you're working from home, and that sort of thing. Okay. So anyway, so that is actually the what the class is about. Go back to the modules again. Okay. You'll see read chapter 1. And again, if you actually go to, what I do is when I teach, I actually teach off of this. And you can see actually there's all the chapters. Okay. And what I do is actually I go over each chapter, but what I try to do is I try to basically, show I try to take the stuff that he's talk about here and try to connect it to stuff that may be on YouTube or any kind of network thing or whatever, or maybe any kind of current issue that's going on at that moment. I mean, they discuss issues that have happened a long time ago, One thing they talk a lot about is this particular case that involves some that happened in Texas a few years ago, and I won't talk too much about it right now, but anyway, involving Firestone. And it involves what it does is it involves like the whole idea of like, are we doing enough to actually get the story and get it right? Okay. One of the things that comes up often in journalism is like, is it better to be first or better to be right? And even though I'm really big in this class about making sure that it's your opinion, and there's a real subjectivity to this class, I also think that like again, like it should be grounded in like sound principles, okay? And they don't necessarily again have to be the principles of like the Greeks or the Romans or whatever, or the Germans from like a few hundred years ago or whatever, Aristotle or whatever. But they could be like your own personal principles, which we'll talk about. Is the stuff that you're raised with, the stuff that you learned in school, that sort of thing, okay? There's a certain validity to that. Okay, maybe the stuff you're brought up with, the morals you're taught as a child, and as you got older. Okay, um, so that's a lot what like what this first chapter deals with is basically, are we doing enough research and that sort of thing in order to prove something that's ethical, and is research important for that? Okay, all right, journalists, watchdogs, things like that. All right, all right there. Okay. All right, so that is basically what I have for you right now. Let me know if you have any questions. And like I said, I'm actually going to be sending out a thing. I also says to let me to email me and just to say hello, because I want to get everybody's email address because I think it's important. I want to make sure that we actually again stay in touch. We have all the communication tools are available. And again, that's actually another way I actually deliver the lectures to you and other information. Okay. All right, everybody. Thanks very much, and I will be talking to you.